is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, my good friend Pierre Noujaim, Fox 9, Minneapolis with us today. Pierre's fresh off the dentist. Let's see those pearly whites. There we go.
I always go back to this dentist too, because every single time I see her, she says, you got such beautiful teeth. I'll say, well, why? Thank you. Yeah. What a good way to keep me coming back.
It's good for self-esteem.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's very good for self-esteem. I think you need this kind of boost. I went to the eye doctor last week. He's like, you've got great eyes. I mean, I say this through reading glasses right now, but he's like, very healthy eyes.
That's good.
Yes, your prescription hasn't changed. You can keep your same contacts. Like he had a very nice way of saying, you don't have glaucoma. Live your life.
That is, and what better way to say you don't have glaucoma? I mean, that's just, it makes you feel so good. I left without getting new teeth. I need to get my teeth whitened. Forgot about that. But, they're always right there. Walk to the dentist. It's 4 degrees outside, Paul. So, the walk is about, I'd say, between 5 and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, definitely not more than 10 minutes.
4 degrees makes it feel like a day.
It's hell on earth. Yeah. Yes. It's terrible. It is awful.
When I was in middle school, we had to watch a movie, and I would recommend you looking this up on IMDb to verify that it is, in fact, a film. But it's called To Build a Fire. And the whole time it's narrated, and it's this guy walking through the Yukon in winter. And it's like 50 below, 75 below. He's got a dog. And here's the really messed up part about it is I'm like 7th or 8th grade. And about halfway through the movie, they don't show this, but it kind of occurs to you like, okay, this guy's going to die freezing to death. And if the guy dies, the dog is done too.
Right.
And then, and this is not a good thing to have, feeling as a 7th grader, you're pissed off at this guy for being outside. And I know that the movie takes place in olden days.
Sure.
He's walking around and he's walking through the snow and he keeps trying to warm him up. He's going like this the whole time and he spits and it freezes in the air. And that's how I felt when I was visiting you in Minneapolis when we were doing the Super Bowl. I thought about that movie, and I thought people should see this and go, let's not do this. But 4 degrees, and it was cold. It was very cold here this week. We were down in the teens. We were down in the teens. We didn't have any kind of snowpocalypse or ice-mageddon or any of that, but it was quite cold. The pipes could have frozen. My mom had some outdoor pipes burst. Fortunately, she's got 2 different systems, so it didn't affect her inside plumbing. But
I remember one night, actually, when I was there. I can't remember what year it was, but when I was there, when you're driving home from work, and we had a little bit of a light snow flurry coming home. And normally, when I'm coming home from the KCN studios at the time, I'd leave there at 10:30 at night, 10:30, 10:45, close to 11. There's nobody on the road. It's a straight shot down back to my place. And that night, when there was just a little bit of snow dusting, there's a little bit of snow on the ground, but it wasn't bad. We're backed up for miles. Yeah, miles.
Oh, it's everybody's panic stricken.
Yes.
School started late yesterday, right? Or no, Tuesday.
Day before
yesterday. School started late because it was cold. Now, if you're in a rural area like Crawford, which is if you're watching from around the country, that's where President Bush lives. If you're in Crawford, or if you're in Valley Mills or Clifton, or one of those areas that, Marlin, Mart, Riesel, the road, nobody's really on the roads that much. So the roads around your neighborhood are probably pretty slick and you need the sun to come up before you really get going. I get it. But if you're here in Waco proper, there's no reason. The roads never got icy. There was if there was a spot of ice, it's just because there was an awning over it and the sun couldn't get to it. It wasn't that bad, but we started school late because it was 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Tell that, just go tell that to, go back to the dentist to schedule your whitening appointment and just tell just the receptionist that you just heard that's what they did. And she's like, oh, those people are sissies.
She said it just like that too, 100%. They said it exactly like that. Pretty good softball team in Crawford. For now that you bring that up, from what I remember, they're still pretty good.
They're still pretty good. Midway's the better one, but Crawford's still pretty good. Yeah.
Who's got the better one?
Midway.
Oh, Midway's got. Oh, well, yeah, sure.
Midway.
No, I get that. Yeah,
Midway's. I mean, of course, it's different. Like bigger school and very little school. But no.
Sure.
So anyway, before we get on to our football topics, I can't wait to hear your opinion on this. So last night, I don't know if you saw it, Pierre, but UCF, who's on a great tear in basketball right now, they beat Kansas last week, and they beat Texas last night. As their players, they beat Texas in Austin. As their players are going through the handshake line, and they're getting they're getting booed and heckled by the Texas students, they threw the horns down. Let me get on camera. They threw the horns down to the crowd. Rodney Terry, and I quote, told them, "Don't do that shit." And it reignited a debate that I thought might be over, because if you ask most Texas fans, they don't care about the horns down. But there's clearly some sort of institutional policy, if you're a coach, to be super offended by it and then send out propaganda like, this only happens to Texas. Why do we have to deal with this? And then your fans, of which the majority of them don't care. They really don't care. Like, if you ask most Texas fans, I would say 3-1 would say, no, I don't care. And then the one is the one who just believes everything that anyone would tell him that comes from the burnt orange. Yes, Vince Young's going to be here, and his tears will cure your disease. Like, oh, I hope he cries on me. That kind of a thing, that kind of a super fan. The other three are normal, reasonable people who happen to like Texas and just like, it's kind of dumb because every fan base has to go through this. But it has reignited a debate, and Rodney Terry, who is not in the best spot right now when it comes to keeping his job for next year, you could see it starting to wear on him because the horns down has hurt his feelings. Pierre is a person who doesn't have patience for hurt feelings unless they're legitimate. How do you feel about Texas being upset that people throw the horns down?
This one has always been a fun one for me, because especially when Texas A&M used to be in the conference, and you see it with Oklahoma in the football game, and for me it's like, it's part of the deal. This is part of the deal. It's part of fandom. Like, what it's people act as if it's some kind of sacrilegious hand gesture that could, if they had it their way, could get you in the clink for 5 to 10. Like, so it's like, okay, you're a big super Texas fan. I get it, fine. But in all honesty, I'm kind of like, grow up. It's part of the territory. It comes with the territory. Like, it's just how it is. Like, if Rodney Terry wants to be mad about it and try to save face and like you said, make it look like, hey, I really, really care about this program, and nothing's going to insult the University of Texas as long as I'm around. Better put the old cowboy hat and saddle it up. But that's fine. I don't. But at the same time, too, like if you're walking around and you see the Oklahoma football team put the horns down after the game after they win, and that just ruins your entire fall, then you might want to reevaluate your life.
Yeah, just beat them. Just go beat them.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's all you got to do.
All this.
Yeah, just beat them. Bottom line, just beat them. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
it's just win. Don't blow a 16-point lead at home. Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Are they mad? Are they also mad that the rest of the team, Baylor and TCU and Texas A&M, they've all got their hand gestures and stuff like that for their respected mascots? Are they mad that they can't inadvert the claw or something? You can't turn. Is this now going to be bad for Baylor? Are you really going to jerk your shoulder all the way around? Just go like this? Are they mad that it's just too simple to put the horns down? Come on, man.
Look, I'll just tell you, I've been in Gainesville and in Miami hearing awful things about my alma mater. Awful, terrible things. And you know what? Like I'm playing tennis, you just volley back.
Right.
Just hit it back. That's what they want you to do. That makes it fun.
Yes.
Makes it annoying when you're like, you guys are stupid. Sports are gay, and I'm going home. Like that's.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. You get all upset about it. You have the blanket. It's like your crybaby. You run away and you're running home to your mom.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like just to accept it. And look, I know, like Paxton, who's on our chat room, he doesn't care about the horns down. Like he's a huge Longhorns fan.
Good for Paxton.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Like it doesn't bother him. And I'll tell you what Paxton's more bothered by than the horns down, just based on his comments lately. He's very bothered by Rodney Terry not winning enough. Like that's what he's bothered by.
Right.
So really, I know that like this might get cast as like an entire University of Texas issue, but to me, this is a Rodney Terry thing. Rodney Terry is the one who like brought it back up again. And it's because, well, look, he's in a place that you're not, you're only as good as what you did yesterday. Not what you've done overall. Not the fact that he took over Chris Beard's team last year in a really awkward and terrible situation, took the Horns deeper than they've been in the postseason in a long time. That was great. But most Horns fans will tell you that they think that was more Chris Beard doing a better job than him. Chris Beard's at Ole Miss now and not losing all that much. So it makes it look worse. You went and got Max Asis, one of the best players in the country, to come there. They've got all these transfers. They should be better, and they've lost a bunch of times this year. They just blew a 16-point lead to UCF at home. And no offense to UCF fans, you're doing great. You beat Kansas and that, but the fans at Texas are not going to see that as something that's acceptable. It's not even going to occur to them that UCF and Johnny Dawkins might be pretty good and that they just beat Kansas last week. They're just thinking, well, who's UCF? We're leaving this conference so we don't have to be around teams like that. And now they're beating us, Rodney Terry? Do you not understand how this is supposed to work? Like, yes, fine. Lose to Kansas, lose to Baylor, lose to teams that have won titles. But if you lose to UCF, it's just going to make them matter, which I think it has. And then he knows that. So when he sees the horns down, he feels like he's got to stand up for something, but I don't think he realizes he's standing up for something that no one cares about. At least not, or he's trying to, he's stuck up for us. Like you said, put the cowboy hat on. He's stuck up for us. He's here for us. Yeah, I mean, no, you'll win them back, Rodney, when you go beat Kansas and Houston and Baylor and Tech and the good teams in the league. Go to Iowa State, beat them on the road. Do a hard thing, and then you'll win them back. But going hey, don't say mean things is not going to help.
No, and on top of it, too, nobody's going to remember the post-game press conference. People are going to remember the one, whether you won or you lost.
Yeah.
I mean, they might remember it in the moment, but everybody's going to go back to the box score and say, well, wait a minute. That's a nice hat, but you still lost.
Yeah.
That's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So maybe you should focus more about the product on the floor than UCF giving you the horns down. That'd be a good start.
Yeah. And look, I mentioned that about Paxton. I went to the chat room. I've got his emotions in check. I hadn't even read what he said yet. I just knew what he'd been saying. He's a gay, he's on the, if I had a meter of Texas fan, I would probably put him at a 9.4.
Yeah, he's pretty high up there.
He's pretty high up there. He's pretty high up there, and then there's ones, and I'm not saying you're less of a fan than Paxton if you're a 7.5, you're just maybe a little less emotional about it, right? So he's at a 9.4. So if a 9.4 can tell you, I don't give a crap about the horns down, then you know that it's the coach making this up because he's trying to, I'll compare it to something. We're just talking about Ice-Mageddon. So our governor, Greg Abbott, who almost got us all killed during that time. Right after, literally 2 weeks after it happened, and he was, for the first time, even his people who support him were really I don't know about this guy. My power was off for 4 days. I don't really feel like we're being told the truth.
I can't fly to Cancun.
I can't, yeah, all those things. He comes out and he's like, guess what? No more masks. And enough people were like, well, golly. Yeah. All righty. So that was Rodney Terry going, guess what? No more masks.
Yeah.
Go to a restaurant.
That's right.
Kiss a stranger. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Walk to the grocery store. Lick the produce. Nobody, like, it's all fine. Freedom. And then that's what it was. So Rodney Terry has got a situation where he's not winning, his own Ice Mageddon, and he's just walking out there going, no horns down. Don't do it. So that he's hoping to distract people. But again, I do think, and this is me saying a nice thing about Texas fans, I think most of them are smart enough to be like, wait a minute. Just go win. Just win.
It's the old pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That's all it is. That's all it is. Pay no attention. Just focus on a common enemy, which, UCF is a classic enemy of Texas. Their rivalry goes back dozens of days. So it's come on. Come on.
Their rivalry goes all the way back to the year 2023.
Right, exactly. A tale as old as time.
Where they played the first game and they met in the middle, taking covered wagons the entire way.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. So absolutely. So Pierre, I have not talked to you since last week when the coaching dominoes all fell in college football. We did talk about Saban. We knew that. Which, has changed everything.
I just, before you even say anything, I believe it was after we had gotten done with the show that day. It was either later that day or the next day when I see Florida State hand not their new head coach, but your head coach, Paul, a shiny new contract. I said, we just missed it. We just missed the news. Like, Paul can breathe again.
Oh, it was, when it happened, Garrett will tell you, I was a mess. I was going through it because I didn't know, and I'll say this, Alabama made a really good hire in Kalen DeBoer. I think that Washington made a good hire in Jed Fish. And I think Arizona made a good hire in Brent Brennan, but it's the diminishing returns, right? You're sad. Yeah, I know. You're a San Jose State grad. So they all made good hires. The problem is that I'm not going to pretend like any of those guys, except for Kalen DeBoer is the guy who got it. But if FSU didn't get it, were they going to hire Kalen DeBoer? Maybe, because it's Jimmy Sexton. But had they not gotten, say, Kalen DeBoer because Norvell got it, then I don't really know, where they go. And so I was kind of panicked about it. But I don't have to worry about it. He's going to be there for quite some time. So,
yes.
I'm thrilled that happened. But it set off these dominoes. Kalen DeBoer goes to Alabama. He has to rebuild a complete roster. Jed Fish, if you look at the transfer portal now, it's mostly Alabama and Washington players. It's just all these guys who are available, and it's because of this weird situation of rule. And another reason the college football calendar is the least useful thing in the whole world. But just your thoughts on the dominoes that have fallen, especially you as a San Jose State fan. You've had some pretty good years under Brent Brennan, and your school does not exactly spend a whole lot of money on athletics.
No. Actually, in my first year there, I can recall that there were serious conversations about getting rid of the football program entirely. And this was when Dick Tomey was the head coach. I think Dick Tomey had just gotten there, and that first year under Dick Tomey was kind of so-so. But then the next year, suddenly things were starting to look better and better, and suddenly we were seeing butts in the seats, and that was a really good thing for that university. And as great as that stretch was. And then they had 3 years with Mike McIntyre before he took the job over at Colorado. But I would argue that this has been the greatest stretch of San Jose State football in the last 50 years. 50 years, Paul, under Brent Brennan. So we knew it was inevitable. We heard whispers last year and the year prior. What was it, the COVID year when they won the Mountain West title? And so it was expected at some point. So I'm not terribly surprised. I hope he does very well in Arizona. The hire that I'm not going to say raise my eyebrow, but Jed Fish, going to Washington for me is probably the most intriguing of them all. Only because, not that, obviously money talks. That's, the way things are. But I thought Jed Fish had a really good situation in Arizona. You're going into the Big 12. I'm not to say that you should shy away from the bigger competition, but the road in the Big 10 now is just going to get harder and harder. Mm-hmm. And when you have a great revitalization of the program that you did at Arizona and you're getting fans interested and you're going into the Big 12, a conference that is going to be competitive, but is not out of the question in terms of you maybe finding a pathway up to the top. That part of it just surprised me a little bit. I'm not surprised by the money. I'm not surprised by the bigger opportunity, but that aspect to it, I thought surprised me just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's got a couple of kind of weird restrictions as a state where you can only have a 5-year contract as a state employee. Yeah. That's any state employee. So if you're the comptroller, you've only got 5 years, those kind of things. So that's going to put them
That's a good point.
At a bit of a competitive disadvantage. And I don't see that changing in Arizona. Like, I don't think they'll be like, well, because they'd only be changing it for one guy, or two guys. Like, oh, we don't want Kenny Dillingham to leave. If he does well, let's hope Brent Brennan doesn't go anywhere else. Let's make sure that everybody but coaches. Like, you can have one if, So it's not worth one of those things. You don't change a whole law because of several people, right?
No, even though the term is limited too, that doesn't mean you can't pour in more money in the term.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you can always, here's the thing, you can renegotiate, like, you can tear up one and be like, okay, there's a 5-year contract. Well, 2 years in, this is the 5-year contract. It's a 5-year contract from now. So there's ways around it, but if you can just go to a place that can double your salary and be like, yeah, we're going to give you a 7-year contract right now that, it'll be harder for us to get out of too. That's more security for Jed Fish, and it's a bigger opportunity. There's more money in the Big Ten, all that stuff. But Arizona was going to have a really good shot if they kept the roster together. And they might still, if they're able to keep the roster together, but they've already had 9 people go in. Now, not Noah Fafita, not McMillan, but their 2 best players are still there today. But what's true today is not necessarily true tomorrow. And so we'll see. We'll continue to monitor that. But, it has set off an interesting set of dominoes. And I think the biggest one is now you've got 3 programs that have to completely build their roster probably. Arizona now being one of them too, because they've got 30 days to decide this. And we're only in they still have 25 more days to make their mind up to go in the portal. And so it's very, weird. And then the other thing that it is and not that anybody's crying for Alabama to be at a competitive disadvantage for once in their life, but it's a competitive disadvantage for these teams in that, all right, okay, I was just sitting around waiting. I pretty much made all my portal moves. We have one more weekend of visits, or they had one more. We might get one more person. Like, oh, wait a minute. Alabama store's open, Washington store's open, Arizona store's open. Let's go, And so now you can go, I can get, look, we're going to talk about Caleb Downs in a second, who's maybe the best player that's been in the portal overall. Like, he's in the portal now. Georgia can just go, oh, yeah, you wanted to come here? Here you go. Or Ohio State. I know Ohio State's meeting with him today, but, it's probably going to be Georgia, Oh, do that. Mike Norvell, we just talked about him. He buys in bulk at the Alabama store right now. He's got 5 so far. And I think there's a couple more that have gone in that he wouldn't say no to if they called him back and said, yeah, I'd like to come to Tallahassee, And so those things it's very weird. They've got something's got to be done about this to where it makes sense, because also for the SEC teams, and Seth Emerson wrote this in The Athletic today, the SEC, if you transfer in the spring, you're not eligible in the fall. Now, they're talking about changing that rule, but if you've decided to transfer in the spring, you better be okay sitting if you go to another SEC school. So if you decide to leave Alabama because they've gotten somebody in who's going to start over you, and you say, well, I'm not going to start here, I'll go to LSU. Well, you're going to play in LSU in 2025. So no other conference has that rule, but the SEC is trying to, I think, restrict, because there's a lot of SEC on SEC crime when it comes to the portal.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're having to try one little restriction, which I don't mind, but the thing is that they also run the risk of I'll just go to Ohio State then because I can play. So hurting yourself on that end. So it's all very weird. And again, the fact that conferences all have different rules in this day and age doesn't really make sense either, does it?
No.
I mean, so
no.
Yeah.
No, and we haven't even talked about the coaching job that isn't even open yet at the University of Michigan, which eventually feels like it will be open. And my thought process is, well, who's next in line there? Because what are you inheriting? Exactly.
Yeah.
What exactly are you inheriting?
Yeah. So I think people like fans will probably have more, grace towards that now. Be like, well, we know that everybody left. So now it's like, okay, let's see how well you can build this team. But yeah, this is just such a weird thing. And like every day I like find out a new like weird rule that someone has. Like I knew about that SEC rule, but I'd never thought about it in the context of Alabama and how, Seth Emerson put it really well. Like if you're the backup safety at Alabama who thinks you're going to start because Caleb Downs is leaving, you're going to go through spring but you could get to spring having not been in the transfer portal, and they could have gotten somebody who's going to start over you. And then you're like, well, now I got to go. And if you wanted to go to another SEC school, you're not going to play. So you'd have to, go somewhere else. But, I guess if the SEC wants everybody else to benefit, that's fine. With most other conferences, it's just for that individual player, like it limits the choices, because what if the other choice was LSU? You can't go there now. What if it's Georgia? You can't go there now. Now, nobody's going to cry for those schools, but at least for those kids, it's like, well, all right, I guess I'll go to Washington, or I guess I'll go to Purdue. I mean, I don't know, like who's got a spot for me?
I've seen Oregon in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah.
Minnesota's always looking for players. Minnesota is always looking for players.
Minnesota, the Miami of the Midwest.
Correct, as it's known.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, Caleb Downs might be the best player that's been in the portal overall completely, and that's even with Cam Ward, who's going to Miami, and Walter Nolan, Evan Stewart. Caleb Downs, by far the most accomplished of all of them as a freshman. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina, Pierre Noujaim here on the Triple Option on a Thursday, the last show we do of the week. Pierre, when I started the show, we were going to do it every day, and then we were football season. I had to do this show. I had to do like the Friday show because Craig and Smokey were off doing high school ball together, and I was like, you know what? Here's the great thing about podcasts, and you'll never have this luxury in TV. We can do whatever we want.
Yes.
We can do it honestly, I do the show at the same time every day because I like the consistency. But theoretically, in the podcast world, I could do it whenever I wanted to.
Correct.
It's just how it is. There are a lot of podcasts out there that they just kind of pop up at random times. It's great. You'll never have that glory in television.
No,
6
I
and
will
10,
not.
you were there.
Yep. until somebody just decides we're just going to be on streaming, where there's no more over the airwaves, which could happen. Who knows? I don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm bound to certain times. That is correct.
Yes. Your Butt's going to be in a chair at 10:26 p.m. every night.
That is correct.
Yes.
I nailed the time as well.
Yeah. If you want to know where Pierre is at 10:26 p.m., turn on your television. That's where he is.
Right.
Yes.
Please don't rob me while I'm at work. So yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So, you've got at least a 30-minute window from 10:26 because you could.
And I speed home. And I speed home, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm always suspicious of you trying to break into my place.
Yeah. So, no, because you could do all and sometimes you got to be somewhere out live, or out, or you go and you get something and you've got to run back and anchor. Well, you might want to swing by your place first to get a different shirt or however it is. You've probably done that more times than you can count in your life. And then, you're on at 10:25 and then you have, probably at 10:18, you're probably going to be like, and Pierre's going to talk about the Timberwolves tonight. And then you're there like, I sure am.
You would be amazed at how strategically I plot out my day, depending on what story I'm doing, where it is, what I can get away with, what I can't get away with, what I should bring with me, what I don't have to bring with me. It is a whole methodical process, on a day-to-day basis. Yeah,
because then you have to have discussions. I know this is a little inside baseball for our listeners, but the life of a TV news person especially on a weeknight, the weekend, usually it works out a little bit differently because, somebody's off, you've already kind of planned that out. But on a weeknight, you covering what could be a double overtime basketball game could throw everything that you plan to do off. So you have to plan for every contingency,
Correct. No, and that has happened. That has happened. I said, we're planning to be on at 9:45, in between 9:45, 9:50. Yeah. And then suddenly this game, like you said, is in overtime, double overtime. I was like, push us back. We can't push you back. I was like, well, I can't go live from the floor while the game's going on. So what do you suggest? It is. I tell people all the time, if you people watching at home only knew the absolute tornado that occurs before we even go. I had it happen to me about a month ago where I raced. Chet Holmgren came back to Minnesota when the Thunder played the Wolves, and they waited. That game ended at 9:30, and I'm on at 10:25 or whatever. Chet Holmgren didn't take the podium until about 10:15, 10:17 for some ungodly reason. And I was basically out of breath getting to the floor and couldn't hear my producer in my ear at one point. People have no idea. It was a photo finish.
Yeah.
Photo finish.
Yeah.
To make it there on time.
There is nothing more stressful for TV than, here's the other thing especially about the NBA. They're in no rush to get it done either.
No.
They're just so if you're in that double overtime, everything moves even slower. They're just, it's the second overtime. Well, it's not a full period. You just would you guys you don't have to take all the timeouts. You don't.
Yeah. No, and the fans are loving the free basketball, and here I am sitting in my press seat. I'm like, this is my nightmare. This is just gonna be.
You're hey, it's January 10th, guys. It's not gonna make or break you.
Stop trying, especially when you have those coaches that'll still take a timeout with 3.7 left, and you're down 5. As if that's going to matter. Infuriating.
Yeah. Again, because that's 5. That's usually about 5 minutes.
Yes.
All total, of what you have to do. Yeah.
Every minute matters for us.
Yeah.
Every minute matters.
Yeah.
It does. You think it doesn't? It does.
Yeah. Now,
100%.
You have no idea how many times in my life I have been at a basketball game and a coach is getting walloped and they have 2 timeouts left and they don't use them. And I want to walk up and be like, God bless you, sir. You're a mensch. I hope good things happen to you. I'm sorry about your terrible loss. I hope you never lose another game because that was super considerate. Those timeouts were for nothing.
Absolutely. And you blame the players for that loss, not the coach in your post-game report. Yeah, no, that's all the players' fault. No, the coach is A-okay in my book.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Yeah. All right, so Caleb Downs from Alabama he's their best player to go in the portal. Most of their guys who've gone in the portal are not guys you would really know if you weren't an Alabama fan, because most of them are redshirt freshmen, sophomores, guys who played a little bit. Now, Caden Proctor, I would say that's probably number 2 because he was a big get they got from Iowa. They thought he was going to go to Iowa. He went to Alabama. Maybe he goes back to Iowa. Who knows? But he's back in the portal. But Caleb Downs was freshman All-American, just all over the place. Didn't look like a freshman from the jump. I mean, he was, rated by the 5-star plus, which I don't even know what the plus means, but he was. If that's what it means, it's Caleb Downs. Like, if you want to know what a 5-star plus is, Caleb Downs is. A guy who can step in right away at Alabama and be the second or third best player on their defense, right away on that defense. So he's in the portal, and he wants to make a decision in 48 hours. He's already met with Georgia. Ohio State's going down there today to put the full court press on him. It is wild. Like, could you imagine any other sport where the best player is just all of a sudden available to you and you have 2 days to go talk to him? Like, if just tomorrow Steph Curry was like, I'm tired of the Bay Area. The real estate prices here are really crappy, and I feel like I'm not going to get the best return on this house, so I'd rather just take the loss and, go somewhere else. I'd really only consider to play at a non-state income tax state. And then, like, all the ones from, like, Texas and Oklahoma and Florida are just, like, at Steph Curry's house being like, hey, guess what?
Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah. It's just, that's how weird college football is, that a dude can go, I'm done here. I would like to go somewhere else. And then, by the way, you have 2 days to come down and do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and on top of it too, I mean, if you're the player, you're like, I got to make a decision. How fast? I can't tell. It's like the window opens and shuts pretty fast, and you're asking 18, 19, 20-year-olds to just be like, you better make a big life decision in the blink of an eye, and good luck to you. But he's a heck of a player, though, isn't he, Paul? I mean, my gosh, he's just got first-round talent written all over him. I mean, maybe probably top 5 pick potential. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, I'm really looking forward to seeing him in a San Jose State jersey soon enough.
Yeah. He's told San Jose State, like, hey, I know you don't have a head coach yet, but you better get here.
You better.
You better get here.
You got the great blue and yellow color scheme going. I'm a sucker for that, but you better hurry.
I really liked having 3 meals a day, but I felt it slowed me down. So I'm going to go.
Correct.
I'm going to go have what they call brulupper at San Jose State.
Wait till I take him to La Victoria Taqueria. I bet you he signs on the dotted line after that.
No, how many text messages, phone calls, direct messages does a guy like that get? Like, what is the little red number?
Man.
What's more? The little red number on Caleb Downs' phone or the little red number on, say, Jim Harbaugh's phone after Michigan won, of people just texting him to say congratulations?
Yeah. Wow. I honestly, I would say it's Downs. I think it's Downs because he is. Listen, Jim Harbaugh, probably still only has a flip phone for starters, I'm guessing, and then, but this kid is one of those talents that seems like they could turn the program around or elevate. Elevate your program to another level. That's really what I'm going for. And he's the guys like that don't come around very often. They really don't.
No, they don't. They don't. And I just wondered, like, okay, going through, like, is it just like, hey, this is like Ohio State, Georgia, Florida, Miami, LSU. Like, I promise you that unless he just, because he has, you can have do not contact in the transfer portal. So if he put do not contact, that means he will reach out to where he wants to go. Mm-hmm. So that's the only way he can save himself is put do not contact. And even then with do not contact, I don't really think that rule is followed all that much.
Oh, no.
If you want a guy that bad, you'll be like, well, I may not call him, but I could certainly, like, run by his house and throw a letter and be like, hey, I know that you said do not contact, but I'm from Penn State and I'm going to be at the Starbucks around the corner. Just if you're interested in Penn State, come to Starbucks, order a mocha latte with oat milk, and I'll know that you're interested.
It's like a secret service. It's like a CIA kind of like, you find a little note at the cash register outside. It just says outside on it. It's a little backdoor deal. So he's a great talent, and man, whoever gets him is going to be lucky. Whoever gets him is going to be lucky. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, Pierre is going to help walk me through Mike McCarthy, and
I'm ready for this.
Yes,
I am very ready for this. Yeah.
And I need some outside perspective because we've talked to a bunch of Cowboy analysts this week, and I've talked to a bunch of my friends, and I'm at the point, Pierre, when you look at this, I'm just saying totally logically about the Cowboys over the last 28 years of every era they've gone through, about what they can do to get back. I really don't think they've missed much, and they still keep losing. So what's the thing that's missing that they just don't have? I think I might be able to put my finger on it, but it's also not something that you can just go get. Like it's an intangible thing. So,
I think you and I might be thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
We might be thinking the same thing, but we'll find out.
And I will, listen, here's the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to confirm and dispel Jerry Jones myths. Like if you have a thing about Jerry Jones, I will confirm or dispel it, or I might play in the middle. I did this after the show with Royden the other day. I thought I would do it with you.
Yes. I know exactly what I want to say on that.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'll tell you like whether you're where you are, like if it's true, mostly true, not true at all, or that's the goblin story that's not really how it is. So anyway, we'll do that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Pierre Noujaim alongside. And Pierre, as promised, we're gonna try to walk through this Mike McCarthy situation.
Okay.
Now I'll tell you, if you look at it with complete logic and take the emotions of a terrible playoff beating out of it, because it's ultimately one game in the series of 18 of them that they played. It's 12 games winner 3 years in a row, but only one playoff win. So like though the scale is not, like those 36 other wins and the other one are about it's not as, so it doesn't really make sense to fire a guy who's certainly made them better. And I will say this, Mike McCarthy has made the Cowboys better. They have improved from Jason Garrett. Absolutely. So if that's the goal, then if you are, again, just talking about factually, it's probably not very logical to fire that guy that's made you better. But Tony Dungy made the Bucs better and didn't win the Super Bowl, and then John Gruden came in and won it the next year because he brought just that little bit of an edge and offensive scheme that they needed to it. So outside of doing something like that, which they're now not going to do, they're going to keep him. Like they've got to find some way to get that edge. And I think that's what I was talking about before. That's what they're missing is they just don't have an edge like the 90s Cowboys did, like the Chiefs do now. Like there's no, it doesn't matter. Like it seems that their good games all seem to be very conditional. Like if it works out this way, they're going to be great. If it doesn't, they're not. That's where just comparing it to who is the consistently best team, the Chiefs right now. They have the best player. Yes, we know that. But like even now, like they're not having their best season, but it doesn't really matter because if you've got Patrick Mahomes within 2 scores with 3 minutes left, yeah, they can probably win the game still because they've got that dog in them, right? The Cowboys just, for whatever reason, haven't been able to grab that. And that's not a tangible thing. That's not something you can just go, okay, we're going to hire this guy and draft this guy and draft this guy. And then all of a sudden we've got the strength of 1,000 soldiers. It's just not how it is. So I don't know. But I want your thoughts on it because I really at the point now, covering the team as long as I have, following the team my whole life, there's not much that they've really done wrong over these eras to try to get better. They just can't get it right because most NFL teams would swap records with the Cowboys in a heartbeat and be like, well, if we're doing that, we're doing something, like we'll get there. But the Cowboys, like it's at the point where nobody has any faith that they can do anything once the regular season ends.
If I had to put my finger on it and as to why they haven't been able to get to that next level, coaching is not the first thing I would point to. Quarterback, while talented, and I'm not just talking about Dak Prescott because I was never a fan of Tony Romo. He's fine, but the quarterbacks are talented, but they are limited. Mm-hmm. There are limitations to their game. That's why when there was conversation of Dak Prescott potentially being the MVP at some point, I said, no, that won't happen. That won't happen. It will not happen because Dak has not shown us the ability to elevate his game at a crucial time when your quarterback needs to make it. Same thing happened with Tony Romo. Tony Romo, like this talk of Tony Romo when there was grumblings about him being like in the ring, in the Ring of Honor, maybe even like, in the Hall of Fame or something. I was like, are you out of your freaking mind? Yeah. How many playoff games did Tony Romo win?
2.
1? 2? Like, okay. Tony Romo, people are talking about Tony Romo as if he's in this great lineage of quarterbacks that the Dallas Cowboys have had. No, he's not. He was fine. He was all right. There's limitations. Yeah, there's limitations.
You know what Tony Romo was? He was Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah,
Pepto-Bismol doesn't cure you of what's going on. That has to pass through your system. It just allows you to function. That's it, right? So like if you've got a stomach bug, you take the Pepto-Bismol to make sure that you're not living in the bathroom. And like he allowed them to do that, but he didn't cure a thing, and there were other problems that popped up because the Cowboys used to be like, well, we've got Tony, we can win anytime we have him because he was really fun to watch late in games. But that to me has been the crux of the issue because while I believe Dak is a more talented quarterback than Tony was, there still seems to be, like I said, limitations to what he's able to do late in the season at a crucial time. And going back to what we previously talked about before the break in terms of Jerry Jones, one of the misconceptions I feel like that is going around about, people are talking about Jerry Jones as if he's George Steinbrenner. They're talking about him as if like he fires guys like it's a bodily function. Like that's not Jerry in the 90s could have been like that. But Jerry now, like you said with Jason Garrett, he let Jason Garrett coach that football team at least 2 more years than he should have. 3, but yes.
3,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I would fully agree with 3. I would fully agree with
3 more years than he should have. And what happened was 2016 happened with Dak and Zeke and they had this young team and they're like, oh, okay. Let's not upset the apple cart here. And then you kind of saw what happened. Well, Dak's not a young player anymore. I mean,
not anymore. No,
he's in what is the prime of his career, right?
Yes.
As a quarterback, your early 30s is the prime of your career most of the time. Unless you're Patrick Mahomes, then your whole life is the prime of your career. But just how it is. But and I'll tell you, give me a myth about Jerry Jones. We'll do this right now. What's a myth or something you think is public perception about Jerry Jones? I'll tell you how accurate it is.
I would say it depends on how serious we're getting. I would say one perception I think about Jerry Jones right now is it's win at all costs. He doesn't care, like a Greg Hardy situation. It doesn't matter, that kind of thing.
Okay, that used to be true.
Yeah,
and I remember being there the first day that Greg Hardy came in, and it was like, this guy's a real piece of crap. Like, it was one of those things. It's like, man, Jerry, you are really pushing it. Yeah. But I would say, and this is what Jason Garrett helped him do. Helped him because he brought in Rolando McClain under Jason Garrett. Rolando McClain was actually very productive, and Nick Saban, I think, brought Rolando McClain to the coaching staff. I think he's turned his life around. And if it had not been for Nick Saban telling Jerry, like, yeah, you have my, like, I'll vouch for him, like, that would not have happened. Yes, they've got some guys that have run afoul, like every team does have guys getting a little bit of trouble, or whatever. Yeah. I would say since after Greg Hardy, because Jason Garrett and other players like Tyrone Crawford went to him and said, look, we can't have this in our locker room. Like, nobody trusts this guy. That was 2015. It undid their season. It's completely, that and Romo's injury, it undid their season. It completely killed the chemistry in the locker room because there are a bunch of guys who are like, I don't want to be around this human being. And right. Players can morally equivocate with the best of them, but even there's a bridge too far for some guys. So I would say lately he has moved past that in favor of locker room harmony. Although any NFL team, that's not nobody really goes 53 for 53. It's everybody's got something that goes on. But look, I'll tell you, the 90s Cowboys had some stuff going on. Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, that they really let go, that would not fly in today's NFL. There were times where, and he kept thinking he could do that. And it was Jerry's home for a wayward, stud football players for a while. Mm-hmm. They did bring in Martavis Bryant. He's on the practice squad. So it's still there, but it's not as featured as it was before.
Right.
Look, they also signed Michael Sam, so they're with the time.
Right. Yes, of course. Yeah.
I was there that day too. But I think that's maybe he's gotten a little better at that. I'm not gonna absolve him of it, but he's a little better of it.
I would say maybe, I don't know if it's a misconception, but Jerry, it sometimes maybe from afar seems to suffer from the grass is always greener mentality.
Yeah.
Which is hard not to have, I would say, in professional sports. Mm-hmm. The moment Mike McCarthy got there, by the time his first year was over, people are already saying there was already talk of him oh man, Sean Payton's available. Oh, Mike McCarthy's got to be done. He's done because Jerry's going to get Sean Payton in here.
Yeah,
and I bet you Jerry probably did sit in his owner's box at some point and think, man, the timing of that just really sucked for me because absolutely I would have wanted Sean Payton here, but we were ships in the night, so to speak, at that point.
Yeah, they've always kind of been, and Sean Payton's daughter actually interned for the Cowboys one summer. So I remember when she was there, I was like, maybe one day her dad will be here. But even still, I'll tell you, Jerry now, especially with players, is loyal to a fault. He is kept it's not only Jason Garrett he kept too long, he's kept several players too long. The biggest one that was hard for him was Terrell Owens, but it was the right time and he made the right decision. He has softened in his old age. I will tell you that. But he's still Jerry. I would say the other myth about Jerry is that people don't want to work for Jerry. People do want to work for Jerry. People like Jerry. Jerry's avuncular. People he's a great salesman. He really is. Look, he's the best owner and the worst general manager, and he has both those titles. But Will McClay is there. Everybody wants Will McClay to come work for them. And he stays with the Cowboys, even though he's not the general manager in title, but he essentially is anyway. I mean, he's the one who's acquired all this talent that everyone loves. So they've got a good personnel department. It's every year they miss the other thing that happens to them that they're not very good at, it's very weird, where every year a team has to take a calculated risk because of the salary cap on, okay, this is where we're going to have to be, in under budget. So they had Leighton Vander Esch, who's on a 1-year deal, and he got hurt. But so they're okay, we're going to go under budget at linebacker. Well, Leighton Vander Esch gets hurt. An under budget at linebacker turns into a terrible run defense that can't stop teams like San Francisco and Green Bay who can do that to you. So, and then that thing undoes them. Like they go a little bit too far under budget. For years, and I mean years, it was safety. Like the Jeff Heath was on the Cowboys, and he was a nice player to have, but he started for way too long. And it's because Jeff Heath was good, not great, and he cost this much money, and they were spending it all at other places. But if you were a safety, unless you were Jeff Heath, you weren't getting that second contract. They've changed that now because the game has changed, and you need better safeties because everybody's whipping it all over the field. But yeah, right now it's the last 2 years. Last year it was, okay, we've got CeeDee Lamb. We think he's going to be good. Amari Cooper didn't get the shot, and he didn't do whatever it took to get on the field and get through these protocols. So we're kind of annoyed with him. So we're going to send him to the Browns for basically nothing. And then, they got, Brandon Cooks. They got all, they've kind of fixed that problem a little bit. They had a great offense all year long, but, so that was fixed. And then it just, there's always one thing that completely derails them in the one time they need it to just not be as big of a problem.
Yeah, I think, this year's team specifically, I mean, losing Trayvon Diggs hurt them a lot.
But they said DeRon Bland, who had a record-setting year. So, they were,
Yeah, no, they've got talent over there. The issue for me is Jordan Love was not exactly lighting the league on fire. And Matt LaFleur, while I believe is a good coach, I would love to have Matt LaFleur as my coach. That team should not be putting up 48 points on your home field. I know that they scored twice, on picks, but still, that team was walking up and down the field on you on your home field. And let's be honest, Green Bay was not that great of a team this year.
They played well down the stretch for sure.
They did, but credit to them.
You should not have let them roll in like that and beat you like that.
No,
and I'm not taking anything away from Green Bay. It's just
no, we're not. But this was a matchup that, what was the spread? 13.5? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Or did it get down to 10.5? Maybe I'm overshooting it, but maybe it opened at 13.5. But one thing that you bring up about Jerry, and that I would like to go back to, the thing that I find interesting about Jerry is I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing that he plays hardball in terms of contract negotiations with the star players. Because he did it with Zeke Elliott, which was fine. I mean, but he also did it with Dak. And do you really want to upset your quarterback? But at the same time, too, I think Jerry is correct in his thinking. It almost feels like he's caught in between. He's like, I've got this guy like Dak Prescott, who's good. Is he good enough to get me there? I don't know. But at the same time, if I lose him, I'm essentially rebuilding. Mm-hmm. Do I want to? He's caught in the middle.
Yeah,
he's one of those players where you're caught in the middle.
You can't look. You cover the Vikings. They're in the same spot right now.
Same spot.
Okay, so
I think the Dolphins are in the same spot too right now. For the record.
Yeah, and look, Tua's a good player. He's a good player. Yeah. He's got really good players around him. That's for sure. But you can't especially with the Dolphins, between Marino and Tua, is a void. Not everybody can be the Packers where it's, Favre to Rodgers to now Jordan Love. Right. They've done it right. The Cowboys have actually been pretty lucky. They went through a bit of a, until Romo, from Aikman to Romo was a bit of a desert, but by, Cleveland comparisons, it's not that bad. Right.
Right.
So, so they've had Aikman and Romo and Dak, Romo and Dak back to back has been able to keep them above water.
Right. Yeah.
But if you throw Dak out, you're not guaranteed to get a guy who is, and look, the other thing about it, so Aikman, their last truly great quarterback, was the first pick in the draft. Okay.
Right.
He was the first pick in the draft. They had it one more year after that. They took Russell Maryland, and then they've never had the first pick in the draft since then, ever. They've been as high as 4. That's when they drafted Zeke. So the highest pick they've ever had is 4. They're never really bad enough to be at 4. And so when it comes to quarterbacks now, for example, if they wanted to get rid of Dak and draft Caleb Williams, Do you know what they would have to do to make that happen? Like, it wouldn't even make sense because you'd mortgage your future and then you'd ruin Caleb Williams. Ask Washington about, trading up to draft RG3 and then not have any draft picks to put around him. And then the team is bad and they're like, well, it's his fault. Like, well, you could have used a couple of third-round draft picks to get a guard or two. That
could be happening with Bryce Young right now in Carolina as well.
Exactly. So you do that, like there's always a cost if you don't do it the exact right way and thread the needle. So if you get rid of Dak, like there's no guarantee that you can get an equal player back. Like there's no guarantee and how long that'll take because you just don't know. Like Minnesota, same situation with Kirk Cousins. Like they either have to re-sign Kirk Cousins, trade for Russell Wilson, or start fresh. And when you have one of the best receivers in all of football, starting fresh doesn't really sound that appealing. Because
who you have to pay a record contract. It's going to be a record amount of money if you want to keep him, by the way.
Yeah, so it's all those things. The Cowboys are going to have to pay CD as well and Micah Parsons. So they've got this situation. They kind of have to keep Dak. And now, look.
Yeah, right. Yes.
You can see, like, I could see them, like, drafting a quarterback here in the next couple drafts in the middle rounds and going, we hoped so. But Romo was undrafted and a miracle, right? His career happened the way it did. Dak was a 4th-round pick. So, as they move up the ladder, maybe eventually they'll get to a point where they can draft a Drake May, Caleb Williams type. But it's not going to be in the next 3 or 4 years.
No, and I know we're running out of time, but at the same, I just want to point out, like you said, a magic word in there: loyalty. There's sometimes you're loyal to a fault as an owner or general manager or whatever. And I bring up Miami as a perfect example because there was no competition for Ryan Tannehill like when he was in Miami. Why would there be no quarterback competition for him? So last year, I was looking like the nutcase, banging on the table, saying trade Tua and whatever you have to for Aaron Rodgers and get Aaron Rodgers in Miami. Because not only that, you get an upgraded quarterback. I know that they wanted, I know it would cost money. It might have been different with a money situation for them. That's probably why they didn't do it. But at the same time, too, you knew like somebody probably like the Jets was in front line. You got to keep him away from a divisional opponent.
Yeah.
Like, why am I the only one thinking big picture here? What's the problem? What is going on?
Yeah. Pierre, I think they just need to lock you. Like, they should have a contest where Dolphins fans get to spend 5 minutes in a room with Stephen Ross.
Oh, dude.
Just like an essay, video submission, whatever. And they pick 12 of you to spend 5 minutes because that's an hour. So it's only an hour out of his very wealthy life. And the clock starts and you get to you can all strategize together too. So you can be like, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to take quarterback. You take offensive line. You take special teams. We'll just move on down the line until you get to a spot. And then you all spend that 5 minutes in a room with him. And that way he just knows. He has
The problem with that for me would be, it would be 5 minutes of the airing of grievances a la Festivus. And then by the time that's over, I'll be like, all right, let's talk about the team now. And be like, nope, your time's up.
That you could be the grievance. You could be the grievance guy. That's why you got to strategize with the other ones.
Oh, I have a long list. Don't you worry. I have a long list. A long list.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Like, J-Lo's a part owner of the Dolphins. She's got 2%. Like, maybe you can get to her.
Serena Williams, both Williams sisters, I think, have a piece of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's start there and work your way up the ladder.
I'm going to see if A-Rod still has J-Lo's number. I'm going to, next time I see him, be like, hey, can you give me your number, please? I got to talk Dolphins football with her. So just hand it over.
Trust me, nothing weird.
Yeah. Oh, don't you worry. Oh, this is not going to be a pleasant conversation for her. So if you got a problem with her, you might want to give me your phone number.
All right, Pierre, have a great weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.
Pierre Noujaim. Later on in the show, we've got a 9th-year tight end in Miami. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. A 7th-year attempt at Michigan. Eligibility only means something to certain people at certain times. Like even Van Wilder's like, guys, over the line. Like, move on with your life. Let's go. That's coming up and more this afternoon on the main show. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private